Today, I'm going to teach you what I learned by killing my G-Shock with a failed upgrade kit so that you can learn from my mistakes. As a bonus, I'm also going to share with you the very best tools for the upgrade that I have researched along the way so that if you'd like to complete it, you know exactly what you need to get. So smash that like button and settle in because here comes the story. It all started when G-Shock dropped the trailer for the new Mecha G-Shock, the B5000 TVA, and this was the coolest G-Shock design I have ever seen, which I will link to above for those who haven't seen it. Having only recently gotten into watches, I decided then and there that this was my endgame watch and I had to have it. Imagine my surprise when I looked at the price tag and found it cost over $3,000. After I picked my jaw back off the ground, I started having a look around to see if there were any alternatives. Eventually, I stumbled across this upgrade kit from AliExpress, and everything in it looked absolutely perfect. Not only did the AliExpress listing claim to have titanium versions of both the bezel and strap, but also there was two optional extras. There was a sapphire crystal, which I opted for, and also the black and red custom pushers, which I also decided to purchase. Just before I went ahead and spammed the buy it now button on this purchase, I had two questions for the seller to answer. Number one, does the watch feature the diamond-like carbon coating, which the genuine one has, preventing the titanium from getting scratched? Question 2. Does the sapphire crystal allow light to pass through the pattern that I see on it to allow the solar function to continue to operate? The seller very confidently responded to my message with a dead simple answer. Yes. So I went ahead and made the purchase for the works. I wanted the bezel, the strap, the buttons, and the lens. Now, this ended up setting me back about 460 Australian dollars, which is a lot, I know. However, the way I saw it was, compared to the price of the original, this was nothing in comparison. So I'd bought the kit, which was now on its way from China to Australia, but I needed a host watch in order to install it on, which is where I started doing even more research. So I looked up the module on the Mecha G-Shock, and guess what I found? The module is 3459. And I managed to find a very similar module, the 3461, on another G-Shock with all of the same features. It includes Bluetooth, solar, and multiband 6. The module could be found on the GW B5600 G-Shock, which set me back about $250. Included in the new kit was my new sapphire lens upgrade, along with the new button pushers and even some extra black screws to swap out, the links for the strap itself. Now this one is the steel one because I'm actually wearing the titanium at the moment, for those of you who've seen my last review, and of course the star of the show, the titanium bezel. As we touched on in the last upgrade video, these kits come with all of the tools needed and all of the parts needed to make upgrading your G-Shock into a metal design with the strap and bezel extremely accessible for anyone. I really believe most of you could do it quite easily. But when it comes to doing a new screen lens and installing new button pushers, I knew that I'd certainly bitten off more than I could chew. To install new pushers on a G-Shock, you need to work with these microscopic little E-clips, which are extremely delicate to work with and can easily bend or get lost. And for the screen, you need a special watch press just to remove or install a new screen. So I just figured I'd leave it up to a professional and add it to the bill. So I took my G-Shock down to my local watch repair store along with the screen and buttons, and I asked him to repair it for me. He gave me a quote and told me to come back at the end of the day. Actually so excited all day waiting for this, but when I went to go pick it up, he handed me back the exact same watch with the same buttons and screen and said it was too tricky and he couldn't do it and he didn't charge me a cent. So I was really disappointed and I knew that I had to reach out to the seller. So I reached out to the seller and I said I've taken it to a professional and he couldn't do it. Do you have any videos or instructions? And he replied and said the installation of lens and buttons are more complicated. I have no video. Be sure to find professional modified watches. Smiley face. And that wasn't very helpful at all. So I tried a second place, and when I called them, they refused because it wasn't genuine Casio parts. And the third place that I tried said they could install the buttons, but it wouldn't be waterproof anymore. And I should have listened. So I ended up taking my watch and buttons to this shop, and a couple of hours and $70 later, here I am with the perfect buttons installed. So with no other options left about the screen, I reached out to the seller again, and while he originally said that no screen video existed, eventually he relented and agreed to send me one to my email. He then advised that I would need to use waterproof glue to seal the lens, and also advised that the difficulty would be relatively large. And let me just say that being relatively large was the understatement of 2022. So anyway, I got to work doing my research on the best waterproof glue, and guys, this is the one that you're going to want to get. It's called E6000. I'm leaving a link for you below, and it is the best waterproof glue for the job, okay? It is easy to go on, it makes a completely waterproof seal, and if you mess up, it's really easy to just peel it off and try again. So I no longer have access to the video they sent me, but I can tell you this video was not meant for me to see. This was filmed in another language that I could not understand, but by using a translation app and just sort of following along, I was able to learn one thing. I was going to need a watch press. Now, of course, I will leave you a link to this great value watch press below, which does come with this bag of attachments. However, critically important that you know that you will need to purchase this additional bag of attachments, because there's one very key piece in here, which is just the right size that you're going to need to push out your G-Shock screen. Okay, so check this out. It's literally the perfect size to just fit behind that screen and push it out without damaging the solar panel. So highly recommend this bag as well. Since I've already destroyed this watch beyond repair, guys, I figured I may as well give you a bit of a demo with the watch press. So I'm going to install this special nozzle, and we're going to use it to remove the crystal. So while we have the watch open, this module has been water damaged, which is how I killed this watch, but more detail on that shortly. I really wanted to show you the main housing of the watch so that you can see this part, which is the solar panel, okay? This entire black part, if you look through the front, that is the solar panel, which is why it is so important to have the correct size nozzle, which only will put pressure on the screen here. So we know the perfect size attachment for the top of the watch press, but it's also very important to get the perfect size for the bottom. Now this is a 42, and that's the size that I've found that's perfect for letting just the screen pop out when you put pressure on it. We're about to press this screen out, so make sure you've smashed that like button and subscribed if this has been helpful for you. Let's do it. So we just line it up with the perfect hole there, put a bit of pressure down, squeeze it, and it's popped it out. Now, try as I may to have avoided the solar panel, we may have clipped it a bit. Let's have a look. Yeah. So now that the screen's out, I want you to check out this little plastic gasket that's surrounding it. And you may notice that it is missing a substantial chunk, and that's because I messed up big time. So I actually removed this gasket off the original screen, which was actually this green one, put it around the new Mecha screen, popped it onto the surface of my G-Shock, and when I went to press it in, thusly, it actually buckled the gasket. And if you do try and install it without the gasket, it is simply way too loose. So I had to work with what I had, use the crippled gasket, trim off the part that was broken, and just use the press to get it in. And once I'd done so, it was up to this E6000 to try and seal the rest and make it waterproof. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but if you take a look at the very top, just above the 6 there, you can actually see some of the glue that actually got squeezed through when I pressed this in and applied the glue. And what that's done is actually adhered this screen to the solar panel, which is unfortunate and explains why it popped out when we pressed it. But after the glue dried, at the time, this thing was actually looking pretty good and very watertight. So I then proceeded to install the module back into the watch, and then begin to install the back cover. Now, if you're ever working on the inside of a G-Shock, there's one other important tool that you need to be aware of, and that is a lubricant for these O-rings, okay? It's the only way you're gonna make sure that your G-Shock stays waterproof, so I'd highly recommend getting some of this, okay? I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It's very easy to use, okay? You simply pop it open, take your O-ring and just drop it on the sponge like that, and that's got some special grease on it. So now you just close that, give it a few spins, and what that's doing is lubing up the O-ring. You can then open it up and reinstall that back onto your G-Shock, and that is now going to be an absolutely watertight seal when you put the back cover back on. So the rest of the installation is very simple, as we've done in one of my previous videos. And when I first built this thing, guys, I was super happy. I'll show you some original footage and photos of me wearing it when it had just been completed. Before I broke this watch, I was able to wear it for a solid 9 months, and we're going to talk about some of the wear and tear that I experienced during that time before we get into how exactly I broke it. So the first silly mistake I made with this watch, guys, has left some damage on the bezel in the 4 corners, okay? And that was to purchase one of these Bullbars. Now, these are an overall really good option, and I would recommend it on the original version of this watch, but not the metal. I do use one on my GD 350, which is rubber as well. So what happens with the metal ones is once you actually put it over, and I think I've got a piece of string around. To install a Bullbar on a G-Shock, you'll just need a piece of string around one side. You'll put one end over and just use the bit of string to put it over the other side, like so. Okay, now it does look alright, but what I found is that it's the metal contact points that are the only parts of this watch that actually wear down. So I didn't notice anything while I was wearing it with the Bullbar, but as soon as I took this thing off, that's when I noticed the damage it had done to the bezel. So the other wear and tear that I did cause on the front was on these little side screws, okay? So as you'll see there, see that silvering on the screws? That's because, quite frankly, I was not careful when I installed these the first time. So with this screwdriver, just making contact with that roughly, and if it slips, that's going to chip off some of the black paint. So it's really imperative that you take your time and care when putting these screws in to avoid that from happening. So what about the wear on the titanium strap? Well, I'm actually wearing that on my GW5610 at the moment because it was compatible. If you want to see the installation video for this steel upgrade kit, I'm leaving a link above. But the only damage on the titanium strap is where it contacts other bits of metal. So here and here, just by the clasp, okay, because that does contact. And also over here, when this is micro adjusted to be a little bit more close, that can also scratch. But other than that, the clasp itself and everywhere else is looking really clean. So I've been extremely happy with the band on the titanium kit. And I will admit, guys, I sometimes do use a Sharpie on these little areas as well. So on to the story of how I broke this. Well, I actually noticed when I was in the shower once that the little glass started to fog up a little bit, and it was then that I realized, uh-oh, this has definitely got a leak somewhere. After a few days, it kind of went away and it wasn't really on my mind anymore. And then come Christmas, I went for a swim in the pool. I just dived in and I was probably in the pool for a good hour or so. And then when I came up, this was literally just sloshing with water, and obviously the display was off. So this watch had cooked it. As to say I was devastated was an understatement. Obviously this is a stunningly beautiful watch when it was in its prime, and I'd obviously put a lot of time and effort into modding it and getting it to what it was. So, you know, I was very disappointed. However, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, I did end up buying and modding a new kit, and with the lessons that I learned, I decided not to do the buttons. So you'll see I've just got the normal silver buttons. I didn't do the lens either, so I've just got the standard lens. So overall, guys, I was extremely impressed with the quality of this upgrade kit. It was actually only through my own faults that anything really bad happened with it. And I certainly hope that you have learned some lessons from my mistakes so that if you decide to do the upgrade, it won't happen to you. So if you do want to pick up a steel or titanium upgrade kit, I have found one for you that does have the option for buttons and for the screens, okay? It's not the exact one that I used because it's been quite some time, but it is much more affordable now, so I'll leave the link for you below. And as a G-Shock fan, you'll be excited to learn I've just made a new watch playlist, so make sure you check that out. And I'm going to be reviewing this A700W soon, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll also leave you with this review for the watch I'm wearing right now and the upgrade of that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.